Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, listener, to episode 81 of the Ad Nauseam podcast. As always, my name is Dr. David C. Noe. I'm here in Vomitorium West with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Jeffrey T. Winkle. How are you, Jeff?
Well, I think as I told you earlier, I'm running on fumes tonight.
Yes.
I feel that second wind coming on.
So you're mixing the fumes with the second wind.
Yes, I'm burning the fumes and the second wind. I'm mixing all kinds of metaphors here, but I'm feeling better as we get into this.
Good.
Yes.
Any lucubrations?
No lucubrations this evening.
You were burning the midnight oil?
No, I wasn't doing anything productive. It was just it was a embattled night of insomnia.
Yes. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And we how's the weather doing here, Winkle? This is late April, mid to late April, but it feels smarchier than smarch.
Smarchier. It's downright Februaryan out there. Oh, it's brutal. Yes. That's not helping. That's not helping my.
It tends
me tonight either. Yeah.
No, it tends to bring the moods down.
It does.
But this podcast, the octogesimal et prima, 81st podcast, is going to bring spirits up.
That's right. Way back up.
All right.
So what are we talking about tonight, Dave?
Well, we got to start with some quadrigenda.
Oh, did we make some mistakes?
No, you didn't. I did.
You did. Okay, yeah.
I made two mistakes, two howlers last week.
Really? Well, correct them, please.
Okay. So first of all, you asked me for a good Latin term for mascot.
Yes.
And I said, maybe sectator, which is a good word.
Yeah.
Homunculus. But I also said aseclor. No such word.
No such word?
And it nagged me, it bugged me as I smarched my way home that evening.
So you had some insomnia over this
word. Oh, boy, did I.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and I was looking for the word ossicla.
So you were very close.
But no cigar.
You were in that ballpark. You were at shortstop.
Yeah, but Latin doesn't function with ballparks.
You're right, exactly.
we got to be precise here. This is where we get the big money.
Ossicla.
Ossicla. Assecla.
So someone, like a close follower?
Yeah,
like
an ossicla. That's right.
Yeah.
From sequor to follow.
Right.
Odsicor. So, Batman to Robin, Aquaman to all of the Super Friends.
Yeah, I got you.
Whatever it is.
Right.
George to Jerry.
I got you. Right, yeah. So, did you look at like how this was is this a neo-Latinism? Because
no, it's a classical word.
But what did that exactly describe? They didn't have like mascots running around in the arena.
Something like a sycophant.
A sycophant.
Yeah, a kiss up.
Okay.
I didn't check. Now you put me on the spot.
We're gonna have another corrigendum
next week. I'm gonna go out on a limb here.
Yes.
In Ramo and say it is probably a Plautine or Terence word.
Okay.
For the kiss up. The running around the scene trying to curry favors.
I gotcha. So nobody in some like kind of ridiculous costume with an oversized head leading cheers.
It could be.
It could be.
The Sparty.
Sparty. Right. Okay.
And the second quadrigendum.
Yeah.
I said off the cuff last week that Pythagoras' appearance in Ovid is book 13. No.
15.
It's book 15. You probably knew that.
I did not know
Why
that.
didn't you correct me?
I did not know that. And again, I'd be much softer on it. 13. You're pretty close. You round up, you're there.
Yeah, I'm as far from book 15 as the ratio 6 is from the 8.
Oh man, a little early for that, maybe.
All right.
So we got to. So we're talking some Ovid tonight, right?
We are. Yes, it's one more Ovidian vignette.
Yes, just one, and then we're done.
No. But we usually say two more Ovidian vignettes.
Yes.
Tonight we really just have one.
One more, right?
It's the character of Pythagoras, the philosopher, combined with the Roman king Numa. And how are these two going to go together? Like peanut butter and chocolate? Who knows?
I don't see these coming together at all. This is weird.
And the theme is vegetarianism.
Yeah.
So set aside your Bacos. Set aside my pork rinds.
Yes, your huggable portions.
That's huggable portions.
Yes.
And we're going to go full on vegetarian tonight.
This might get a little weird.
It's going to get very weird.
All right.
So let's get right into it, and let's begin with the shout out.
Yes.
I'm going to hand this one off to you, Jeff.
Yes, this goes to one Kara Bergeron.
Bergeron.
I think that's how you pronounce that.
I think it is. Yeah.
Bergeron. Kara is a Latin teacher in the Portland, Oregon metro area. She says that outside of being a parent and being married, teaching is the hardest job that she's ever done. But she loves it. She teaches advanced Latin 1 and 2 and 3 at St. Stephen's Academy, 9th through 11th grades.
Yes.
So one of our torchbearers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kara's a friend of mine. Her son was a student of mine. Lovely chap, very gifted artist, and athlete also, incredible athlete. Kara says, I am a faithful listener to Ad Nauseam and have downloaded some episodes multiple times. Well, that explains our numbers right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and she notes that she loved the Odyssey episodes.
Well, go on.
Yeah, she likes the interviews, Susan Wise Bauer, Dr. Ed Watts. Loved the Odyssey episodes.
Say that part again. And the
Odyssey episodes.
Quote, which I loved.
Oh man, that makes us feel so good.
She goes on, the podcast has been extremely helpful to me because I have come very late to the classics game and I struggle to catch myself up on all of the history, literature, poetry I have not read. Before I taught at St. Stephen's, I spent many years homeschooling my children and doing administrative work for a nationwide tutoring program for homeschoolers.
Excellent. She also says that she's a fan of the Latin speaking community and learning community.
Right.
And she finds it very incredibly warm and welcoming to neophytes like herself.
She's never interacted with me.
No. I was gonna say, yeah, right. Have you actually done that? And very patient besides. She says, I have learned a little or a lot from every single person who has taken time to speak with me in Latin or in English about Latin.
Yes. Now, you want to read this self-congratulatory part?
The very next bit here?
Yeah.
Yes. It says, thanks to you both for being a funny and informed source of popularizing the classics, and thank you to Dave, that is Dr. Noe.
Glad she clarified.
Right, for offering such high-quality courses in Latin authors each week. I absolutely loved the Theodore Beza class she just finished, and she looks forward to continuing reading Beza again in your cohort.
Right.
Cohort, yes.
Yes. So we put on heavy outdoor jackets that are kind of brown. You've seen these before?
Like Carhartt jackets?
Yes, we are a cohorting Carhartt.
You just came up with that, didn't
I
you?
did.
Not bad.
Stupid,
not bad.
but impromptu.
Right. Well done.
Thank you.
Dave, you got our opening quote?
I do. This comes from an incredible scholar, Elaine Phantom, or Laney, as she liked to be called.
If you met Elaine Phantom, would you say, hey, lady?
I would not.
No,
she probably hasn't watched Seinfeld.
She's one of the greats, though.
She is. A Princeton professor. This woman is an incredible scholar. And this is from her 2004 book, Ovid's Metamorphoses is the simple title. It is in the Oxford Approaches to Classical Literature series. This is page 131. Quote, the Metamorphoses and its many narratives are like a complex necklace whose central strand sustains loops, both short and long, of beads of different colors and materials, which separate and rejoin the main ordered sequence at different places to create an overall symmetry.
Oh, that's very nice.
It's a complicated sentence.
Yes.
You followed through on it all?
Well, I like the metaphor of the beaded necklace. I think that's a great. I mean, the Metamorphoses. Readers and scholars have long debated about how does it hold together?
Right.
Is it just the recurring changes, the memories that holds it all together, or is there more to it? But I like this idea of the different colored beads being able to be kind of being arranged and put next to each other, and patterns recalling other patterns. That's really nice.
Well, I was reading this. I was wondering. I wonder if Winkle is a necklace wearer.
I have never worn a necklace.
Never a single necklace.
Well, maybe once as a kid, like a craft that was made with
string and maybe
beads.
some sisal or some kind of twine, with a cross or a shell or anything on it. Like,
I think
a little guitar trinket.
I went through like a weekend phase of
hippie phase
of like a Birkenstock.
I knew you
hacky
did.
sack.
Yeah,
and I had a friend from Colorado gave me like a necklace with some kind of stones on it.
Yes, and you were there.
I was there for about 36 hours. I thought, this is not me. Right? There were many sacks left unhacked.
Yeah, I was wondering though, the sandals, were they like shot out of a plastic mold?
No, they were leather.
Birkencrocs.
Mine were the real deal.
But you probably have a pair of Crocs, don't you?
I've never owned a pair of Crocs.
Good for you. Yeah. Neither have I. We just alienated all the Croc wearers out there.
Those things that look like they could be 3D printed.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Could you put any less effort into your footwear? That's what I want to know.
Right, exactly. It's just another way of saying to the world, I give up.
Yeah. It was either this or Ziploc bags.
Hey, speaking of bags on feet,
Right.
When you were a kid, did your mom? Hey, you got to put these bread bags on your feet before you stick them in the boots.
Yes, because we live in Michigan, and it's March all the time.
But nobody does it anymore. I can still see the soldier on the Roman meal whole wheat bag sticking out of the top of my boots.
That's what I had too.
Really?
Yes.
That was the go-to.
You put your sock in the plastic bag, bread bag. You put the whole contraption inside the moon boot.
Yeah.
And then the water soaks down in, and you slosh to school.
I remember them working all too well. My feet were on fire by the time I got to gym class.
It was like putting a turkey in the oven. A little button on your foot pops out.
Man, I couldn't wait to get my Crocs on after that walk.
So people are wondering, are they going to talk about the classics at all?
All right, so tonight we're going to be talking about Book 15. We're going to talk about Ovid's take on Pythagoras.
That's right.
And it's the character of Pythagoras' connection to Numa,
right,
one of the early kings of Rome.
That's right, the second one.
The second king of Rome. And we're going to be kind of exploring what is Ovid trying to say here? How serious are we going to take this, or is this just more game playing?
Right.
Okay.
And it fits so nicely, I would say, with the overall theme of this podcast, which is, gorging on the classics,
yes,
being a gourmand, because the subject is vegetarianism.
Right.
So the whole bit here that Pythagoras gives is about eating.
Yeah.
What one should eat, what one should not eat.
A lot about what one should not eat.
Mostly about what one should not eat.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get a little personal, too. We're going to ask you, Winkle, about some of your dietary habits. And
oh, we are? We're doing that tonight?
Yeah, you don't know?
Oh, gosh.
Are you a vegetarian? Are you a vegan? Why, if not, why not?
Okay.
And you can, turn the tables on me and stick the fork in me, so to speak.
All right.
And we'll see where it goes.
Let's go for it.
All right.
So where do we begin? At the beginning?
Yeah, we begin with a red letter date, which actually is coming up this week. April 21, right?
The birthday of Rome.
That's right. I think that's going to be a Thursday, isn't it, of this week? Let's see.
I think that's right. Yep, Thursday.
April 21, 7:53, about 10 a.m. in the morning.
Is that when it
yes.
happened?
Don't you know? And what happened was the founding of the city of Rome, and we get most of our information about this from Marcus Terentius Varro, right? So he was at the end of the Republic 116, so a little bit, he's 10 years older than Cicero, but outlived him by 16 years, so 116 to 27 BC. And it's Varro, who was an antiquarian historian, who tells us that April 21, 753, right, AUC, ab urbe condita, from the founding of the city, that's when it got started.
Yeah. And this is where the famous story of the rival brothers, Romulus and Remus, right?
Correct.
And so Rom kills Rem.
That's right.
And voila, Rome is born.
That's right. And Livy kind of, we'll talk about this at some point if we haven't already, but Livy kind of glosses over it a little bit with Remo Nakato, something like that, an ablative absolute. And when Remus was killed, the show goes on. Romulus eventually dies, and Ovid tells his apotheosis. We should probably do an entire episode at some point on apotheoses, right? The becoming of a god.
Right.
And Livy tells us that, and Ovid picks up on this, that he vanished into thin air, Romulus did. And Ovid's metaphor, one of his many irreverent metaphors, is like when you're whipping a sling with a lead ball, on the battlefield, as we often do.
Of course.
And you let it fly. If it gets going fast enough, the friction, according to Ovid, will cause it to melt in midair.
Really?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But this is one explanation that was given. That's the way Romulus disappeared.
That's the metaphor he uses?
Yeah.
That is so, I mean, that's one heck of a slingshot.
It is, but it also seems very undignified for Romulus. Like he melted like an ice cube.
Do you think Ovid's going to just stick a finger in his eye there?
I kind of wonder. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
So Romulus dies. He rules from 753 to 715, and he is replaced by Numa Pompilius.
Which is the guy we're talking about tonight.
Yes, he's the guy, Numa Pompilius, right? And so we mentioned a few episodes ago the mnemonic device, right? How do you remember the 7 kings of Rome?
And how does this go? I don't remember this.
Ramen noodles, toss and turn, save them.
Did you come up with that?
No, I learned this from one Samuel Husky.
Oh, Samuel Husky.
Yeah, Sam, if you're still listening, I owe this to you.
Your compadre from grad school.
That's right.
Yes.
He's now at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And a very accomplished scholar.
Yeah.
Yep. And I learned this from him. Ramen noodles, toss in turn, save them.
Save them.
Romulus, Numa, Tullius Hostilius, Uncus Marcius, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, Servius Tullius, there's the save, and Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, there's the them.
Right. Now, do you have a sense of like where, on the scale, where we go from kind of quasi-history to kind of more concrete?
Well, you know how I am.
Yeah.
I tend to take things at face value because I think it makes life more rewarding. I don't know if I'm somewhere between gullible and credulous. I don't know. We did an episode that's actually done quite well, History and the Trojan War.
Yeah.
Remember Joachim Latache and Dennis Page?
Yeah.
Way back when?
Right.
And there is a sweet historical nougaty core to the story of the Trojan War.
Right.
So I'm inclined to believe maybe the names aren't precise, the dates aren't precise, maybe Romulus didn't melt into thin air like a lead ball.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is true in some respects. And there's archaeological evidence, the middle of the 8th century BC, around 750, the hill is, the Capitoline Hill, is occupied in the right spot.
Yeah, and you got the huts on the Palatine.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, so I think, generally speaking, around 753, that seems to be fairly...
Something got started.
Now, whether it happened in late April at 9:54 a.m.
10, Jeff, 10.
10 exactly.
10.
10 o'clock
is
maybe, who knows?
Okay.
All right.
So we had a Laney Phantom, right?
Yep.
And now we have what?
Who's next?
Hello, Numa.
Hello, Numa. Oh,
Right.
That's good, yes.
Thanks. So Livy tells us some things about this King Numa, right? The second person, the noodles of the ramen noodles, toss and turn, save them. Why don't you read a little bit about Livy and what he did? About Numa from Livy.
Livy says, he was as conversant as anyone in that age could be with all divine and human law. His master is given as Pythagoras of Samos, as tradition speaks of no other. But this is erroneous. For it is generally agreed that it was more than a century later, in the reign of Servius Tullius, that Pythagoras gathered round him crowds of eager students in the most distant part of Italy, in the neighborhood of Metapontum, Heraclea, and Crotona.
Right.
So Livy says that's the tradition, but nah.
Well, he says the tradition of Numa being a student of Pythagoras
is
nah.
Right. So he's the chronology's off.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Elaine Phantom makes the point that, as we'll see in our closing quote this evening, as well as the $1 billion idea I promised last week, remember?
Oh, yeah.
You never forced me to deliver on that.
You're going to have to do it tonight.
I'm ready. We've written it into the script, so
Excellent.
it's coming.
Good deal.
But anyway, Numa, right, is taken as historical by Livy, but the chronology is wrong for him to have been Pythagoras' student.
Right.
Phantom says everybody knew this by Ovid's time. In fact, everybody knew it, in the time of Cicero.
Right.
But Ovid doesn't really care.
Or is he just using that he's like purposefully being mistaken for the sake of a joke?
Could be.
Is he making fun of the whole thing?
That could be. I've noticed something recently as I try to catalog dates in my mind, because that's something I like to do. I like to keep track of who did what when, right? And the birth and death of St. Bonaventure and St. Thomas Aquinas, their careers overlap almost identically, but if you look real closely at the chronology, it's off by 1 year.
Ooh, okay.
By 1 year. So I have just deliberately decided to ignore that and treat their birth dates as, identical, because I want to be able to remember it, right?
Yeah.
So this is what the ancients did all the time too, right? So-and-so died and so-and-so was born in that same year, and so-and-so was a student of another person, even if they never really were in the same geographical location or century, because their ideas were so similar.
Yeah.
And that is something that the ancients liked that, moderns don't.
Right.
But I think we've lost something there.
Oh, you think so? So you think the kind of the need for that kind of precision,
right?
What's lost is there's something in the bigger picture that's lost. Okay.
So let's think in sports terms.
Okay, let's do it.
So, the careers of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, two great basketball players, overlapped by I don't know how many years.
A handful of years.
3 to 5 years, something like that. They played against each other. Maybe it was even longer. But it's much more convenient to see Kobe as Jordan's continuator, and just to say, when Jordan stopped playing, then Kobe began playing, because they were so often compared to each other, and similar gifts and skills and friendship, and ignore the fact that they were contemporaries and just take a terminus for each, a postquem and an adquem.
Yeah, no, I think we've talked about something similar that happens in music as well.
Exactly.
Right. I think that I might get this wrong, but this might be like Yngwie Malmsteen was in an interview saying, I was born the month that Jimi Hendrix died.
Right.
Which is not true.
No.
But that's not important.
No.
Is the idea that he carries the mantle now.
Right.
Right.
So that's it's a contemporary analogy.
All right.
So Numa.
Yep.
Hello, Numa. The youngest of 4 sons, he was a Sabine, right? He was a Sabine, so he just lived southeast of Rome, an early competitor of Rome, right?
Yep.
And of course, the Latin plural of a Sabinus is
Sabini.
Sabini,
Yeah.
right? So then their children were called.
I don't even know where you're going with this.
You're not going to say it? Sabini babies.
Please carry on.
Come
my
on.
God. Sabini babies. All right.
You know you're putting that in the description. You always write the description.
That's right. All right. So I should thank you.
That was funny 25 years ago. Do you remember the Beanie Baby craze?
I do remember it. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Just one step after Cabbage Patch.
Yeah. Did you ever actually?
Of course not.
Just wondering.
I didn't own any or even look at them, but I got a good joke out of it.
Yeah.
The Sabini babies.
All right.
Anyway, he was a Sabine. He was offered the kingship and accepted it. He lived at a place called Cures, which is the origin of the term quirites.
Ah, yes. Another term for the Roman citizens.
That's right.
Yep.
And Plutarch is the one who tells us that there was a Spartan connection. So the Sabines, right, the Sabini, there was a Spartan connection according to Plutarch, and that is intended to explain why Numa was so strict, so disciplined, and a lawgiver. And like Solon, Lycurgus, Draco, Moses, Hammurabi, he is the Roman lawgiver, right?
Right.
He is the cult character, the cult individual who really gives the Roman people their identity.
Yes.
Romulus establishes the people, Numa gives them all their culture.
Right. So it really starts with Numa in some degree.
That's right.
Yeah. As the Romans saw themselves. Okay. That notion that the Sabines were a Spartan colony. Is there any truth to that?
I don't know.
No, the Spartans were not great colonizers. They were.
Well, they did colonize southern, the boot of Italy, like Crotona and those places. They were down there.
Okay. All right.
And he's also known as a pacifist.
Now, that does
Numa
not sound like a
was.
Spartan.
No, it also doesn't sound like a Roman, does it?
No, not at all.
But Numa was a pacifist in Roman terms, which means no wars of aggression. It doesn't mean no wars.
No wars, but
just try to keep them to a minimum.
Right. You don't go out there and deliberately spark them.
No,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And there has to be a real serious cause, not that someone stole your slipper. That's not a reason to declare war.
Gotcha.
So
Yep.
in Roman terms, a pacifist. Now, what about Pythagoras?
Well,
What are some of the things we know about him before we get around to the Ovid and the actual vegetarianism?
he was from the island of Samos, which is today just off the coast of modern day Turkey.
Yes.
But that was very Greeky back in the day.
Have you been to Samos?
I have.
Okay.
I have. It was kind of a stopover on our way to Turkey. It was very pleasant.
Isn't it the birthplace of Helen?
Is that she's from Samos too?
I think so.
Okay, but it was a very beautiful island.
We got rough dates for him and so forth?
Yeah, 582 to 507 BC.
Okay.
But my sense of Pythagoras too is he kind of dwells in the ether of kind of quasi history, mythiness. Probably a real Pythagoras, but
Definitely.
But as much what we can kind of attach to him specifically is very difficult to do.
Lots of stories made up about him, but at least 100 years too late to have associated with Numa.
Yes, exactly. Right. So Livy was right on that account. He went to Crotona. He went to Italy to escape Polycrates' tyranny on Samos.
Okay.
Most people when they hear Pythagoras, they think triangles.
Yeah.
Right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you remember first learning about that in about 7th or 8th grade in your algebra class?
I do remember
the
that.
Pythagorean theorem. It sounds so impressive,
it does.
doesn't it?
It does. It's one of the very few things I remember of algebra.
Having never heard a word like that.
Yeah.
Pythagorean theorem.
It's like, I have
so impressive.
Exactly. I have entered something lofty.
Correct.
Right. He was a you have here. He was a gymnophysicist.
No,
gymnophysicist. Gymnophysicist. He was a naked physicist.
That is possible. Naked philosopher.
Okay.
So there is a tradition, right, that the philosophers of India, the subcontinent, they practice philosophy in the nude. I mean, this is historical fact. And there's some suggestion that some of these wise individuals wandered westward and had an influence on Pythagoras and other Greek philosophers.
Interesting.
It's a connection that has long been talked about, mooted.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be established. So,
But so going from India to were they nude the whole way?
it's a long walk. I knew you were going to ask that. May have been an umbrella or a parasol. I don't know. But this is the tradition that that if you are, it's about getting back to nature, right? Living secundum naturam catafus, and you living according to nature. Dispense with all human convention. And what's more conventional than clothing? I'm not talking about you in particular, although I could be.
Yeah.
It's a mark of human society. We got to strip off all those layers of convention and custom and get down to the real truth of ourselves.
But also perhaps like in Greek statuary, the nudity, like masculine nudity, is often meant to be reflective of the divine,
correct,
as well. So there maybe a little bit of that aspect as well,
right? Or
it's just so hot in
I
India.
don't know, but that's how we came. It's how we came into the world,
And yes, okay, right.
Little philosophers.
All right. So he was a gymnophysicist,
perhaps,
right? He founded a school in while he was in Crotona. Is that where he?
No, in Samos.
In Samos, yep. Okay. An ascetic,
right?
It's
extreme self-denial. This plays into the no meat, right?
Right. He founded a religious order, as well.
Yeah. So the line between philosophy and religion is not distinct in antiquity.
Right.
It's a way of life, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, my sense of what I learned about Pythagoras is that it was kind of philosophy. When we think philosophy, I think most people tend to think Socrates, Plato,
Descartes later on,
right? That kind of almost kind of cold rationality, but mixed with a kind of mysticism.
Yes, and a zealous commitment to an idea.
Yeah.
So you can't be too detached. It's not about bare reason, right?
Right.
Maybe about bare shoulders
and bare other things, as we've learned. Yes.
But you have to be committed to an idea, and that takes a kind of philosophical intensity.
Yeah.
So when I was an undergraduate at that institution, I was taught my intro philosophy course by a man named Mark Talbot.
I remember him.
Yes, a fine teacher.
Yep.
And we spent 3/4 of the semester on the pre-Socratics.
That's a long time.
It is, but it was very, very revealing and informative, educational. I learned so much.
Yeah.
I once made him so angry he hurled a piece of chalk at me.
Did he really?
Yes.
What did you do? Why were you badgering the poor man?
I said something philosophical. I don't know, and he didn't like my point, so he hurled a piece of chalk at me.
Were you slandering Anaximander or something?
Could be, maybe Anaximenes.
Anaxagoras?
Don't get me started on Anaxagoras or Xenophanes. I kept that piece of chalk as a keepsake for a long time.
Do you still have it?
I don't, but I did for a long time because it's a badge of honor.
Definitely.
To so honk off an important philosophy professor that he whips a piece of chalk at you.
That is. You could have incorporated that into a necklace.
I guess I could.
That would have been nice.
Have you ever thrown something at a student?
Never. No.
I've thrown a lot of rotten glances, but
yeah. I had actually this last week I had something tossed in my general direction in class. So a student made it, and it turned out to be not out of spite, but you know what a cootie catcher is? Those little
I do.
things.
Yep.
The student made one for my children and said, "This one will tell you which Greek god you are." And says, "Give this to them; they'll know what to do with it."
And
they loved it. It was great.
Oh, wow,
it was great. But she didn't hand it to me after class. She threw it at me.
She threw it at you.
It landed on the desk.
Social distancing.
Maybe that's what
it
was.
The cooties.
Just thinking of safety.
Yeah,
right?
cootie distancing. So Pythagoras engaged in a lot of strange prohibitions, didn't he? According to legend.
Right. This passage, I'm sure we'll be reading parts of it, but not just vegetarianism, but hardcore vegetarianism.
Don't eat beans.
What was his deal with beans?
Well, because this is not facetiously said, supposedly because they cause some kind of internal wind.
And this is bad?
There might be some life principle. I'm not kidding. Don't poke a fire.
Sometimes you have to poke a fire.
Don't do it, Winkle.
Why?
Don't poke a fire.
Why not? Sometimes you got to keep it going.
No, because the fire is animate also. And so to poke it is to give it a kind of, a kind of an insult.
So you're kind of courting disaster.
Correct.
By poking a fire.
Right. Now, some of these things may be the products of comic playwrights in Athens that were making fun of Pythagoras.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah.
Like the turtle dropped on Aeschylus's head.
Right.
Beware of falling turtles. Was that the title?
That was a good one. Yeah.
The title was a good one.
Oh, that was good. And the episode was.
Well, the episode was a good one.
Yes,
we'll say that.
Oh gosh, man. All right. Don't step over a bar.
No, don't.
What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like a
piece of metal, right?
You don't step over it.
Maybe it's related to the Herculean stone, magnetics. Don't step over it. You're messing with the feng shui that it possesses. I'm not sure I used that correctly.
Yeah. You're kind of breaking up the mojo of the space.
That's correct.
Okay.
You shouldn't do that.
Don't step over a bar.
No.
All right. What else aren't you supposed to do?
Don't eat heart.
Anybody's heart.
Anybody's heart.
Anything's heart.
That's right.
Okay.
That's kind of an obvious one, isn't it?
Well, if you're a vegetarian, I think that would kind of go with the program.
Yes,
right?
but even if you're not a vegetarian, have you ever eaten the heart of an animal?
No, it's usually not on the menu.
No.
Okay. So I'll take them there.
Okay.
Right? Yep.
Because there's some kind of life in it, right? Now, there's this notion of sympathetic magic. You familiar with that?
I am.
Yeah, where you take on the properties of the thing with which you're associated.
Yes.
This is why people wear shark teeth, unless they're just wearing it for decoration.
Yes.
Right, but you wear a shark's tooth or you wear fangs or something because you're supposed to then take on the character of the animal that possessed it.
Right.
And so that may be how it is kind of with heart, right?
I see. Okay.
Isn't there a scene in Dances with Costner where one of the Native Americans kills a buffalo?
And he hands the heart to.
Yes, it pulls it out and he's supposed to eat it on the spot.
He is. Exactly, right. And I think he does, but he's clearly kind of freaked out in that moment.
Right.
Who would want to do that?
That's right. So,
but it was considered this great honor, this great gift.
Right, to eat the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pythagoras would never go for that.
He would be shaking his head.
And then the big one.
Yeah.
Is the metempsychosis.
He's definitely got kind of, not just kind of, but he's into reincarnation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is another suggestive connection with something you've been teaching recently,
Yes.
right? Which is Hinduism and part of world religions.
Right.
Been in that. So these ideas, they seem so similar to further Eastern ideas.
Right.
The gymnophysicism, and the transmigration of souls.
Right.
Right.
And even if you compare like core tenets of Taoism and Confucianism, it overlaps with Stoicism,
Right.
almost to a letter.
Right.
I mean, that whole notion of live according to nature.
Yes.
That's all over Eastern philosophy as
Right.
well as Western philosophy.
So is it inheritance or is it independent origin?
Right.
Perhaps we'll never know.
Or a wave of nude philosophers migrating across the Bactrian desert. It's possible.
A wave. Yeah, so metempsychosis, the soul moves and lives somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or transmigration.
Right. And that shows up in Plato too. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you drink from the waters of Lethe and
Correct.
you're reborn.
Yeah, and Plato is one of our main sources, actually, for Pythagoras' ideas. So without Plato, we'd know much less about Pythagoras than we do.
Right. This episode of Ad Nauseam brought to you by Ratio Coffee. Ratio Coffee, the good folks from Portland, Oregon, the same place our shout-out went.
Yeah, they actually are acquaintases.
They are. Crazy small, tiny world. But
Yes, it is.
But Mark Helwig and his crack team of coffee engineered geniuses, as we've known for a long time, they've done it.
Yes.
Yep, they've found a way to make affordable, beautiful works of art coffee machines that brew the perfect cup of coffee every single morning.
That's right. I would like to quote Tyler Hayes.
Who's that?
Well, he writes for that venerable news organization Newsweek.
Okay.
And this is from the March 19, 2021, so it's a little bit dated, and he says, the Ratio 6 automatic coffee maker. I spent a year making a cup of coffee each morning using the pour-over method because I wanted my black coffee to be smooth and less bitter. I got used to boiling water, measuring out the specified amount of coffee, and then pouring out the corresponding cups of water over the right... I'm bored already.
Man.
Over the right length of time. It's a fiddly process,
I'll say.
but it allows for more control over how your coffee tastes. The Ratio 6 coffee maker promises to recreate the manual pour-over method's enhanced flavor, but to do it all automatically.
No fiddly stuff.
No, I was intrigued, says Tyler. How could someone not be?
Exactly.
So does this upscale luxury deliver a worthwhile experience for people who want to enjoy their morning coffee, but typically run low on time and patience?
What's Tyler's answer?
He says yes. The Ratio 6 produces a couple of different coffee makers. It started on the really high end with an 8 and worked its way down to the little bit less expensive yet still premium 6. One thing that's clear from both of its machines is that the company is designed focused.
I agree.
Its coffee makers are gorgeous and provide their own visual stimulants. No caffeine needed. That Tyler.
But Tyler, you just have to look at the machine and you're ready to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he says there's a good chance that just seeing a picture of the Ratio 6 will tempt you to make the purchase.
I have to agree with that.
He got that right, didn't he?
He did. Those just the clean aesthetics of the machines are just
outstanding.
Yep, they grab the eye.
Did you have some coffee this morning?
I did from my 6.
Yes.
It was great.
So consistent.
So consistent. I got up early before all the other people in the house were up.
Right.
I hit the button and it was great.
Yeah, one touch. Who could, make coffee with just one button press?
That's right.
Phenomenal.
Nothing fiddly about it.
No.
Yeah.
Nope, no Kindle brick.
No. Exactly.
So, if you listener, audience, you would like to score one of these fantastic machines, you need to go to ratiocoffee.com, RATAO put the 6 or the 8 in your basket, and to get 15% off, Jeff, what do they have to enter?
They type in the code ANCO 6Y.
6Y.
Yep. And so that's if you've been listening to earlier episodes, there's a slight change in the code.
That's right.
That's the new code ANCO6Y.
And this code expires April 30. Right. So you got to get on there and put in this code and get yourself a fantastic machine.
Take advantage.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by Hackett Publishing Company. Hackett Publishing is now, Jeff, in its 50th year.
Exactly 50. This
50.
is their anniversary year.
That's right. Started in 1972. They've got offices in Indianapolis, right here in the heartland. Mm-hmm. It may be smarchy down there in Indiana. We don't know.
Probably.
But they're going to keep on purveying fine quality books for those who like the classics and so forth. They got an office in Massachusetts. I stopped by the website today, Jeff, because it's just such an interesting place to be. And guess what I found?
What did you find there?
I found 3 incredible volumes right on the landing page.
Okay.
The first one is one you might like.
Which one?
Samurai and the Warrior Culture of Japan.
That does look extremely interesting.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you strike me, as kind of you got the samurai spirit, you got the top knot and the silken kimono, and
yes, the sharp katana at my side.
Is that what that's called?
That's the kind of sword. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Right. You really do know the samurai life.
I have children who are very interested in this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So
if you wanted to know more, what would you do?
Well, I would buy this book, Samurai and the Warrior Culture of Japan. Right. A source book. Mm-hmm. I see you also have here under philosophy. Applied Ethics, an impartial introduction.
I'm so tired of those partial introductions.
Oh, man.
Finally, an impartial one.
At last, yes. Yes.
And then all the way over on the right-hand side of the website's landing page is the essential Thucydides.
I wonder what they left out. I wonder what the author considered to be non-essential.
We'll have to ask Paul Woodruff. Yeah. Selections from the history of the Peloponnesian War. So this is a really good snapshot of just everything that Hackett has to offer. You've got Asian studies, a very fascinating topic, the samurai culture, a source book. You've got applied ethics, and you've got classics proper.
Yes.
So they got it all.
They do have it all. And one of the things that we've talked about that we love about Hackett is that they don't, when it comes to translation, they don't limit themselves to one translator and one volume. They are open to many different takes on the same book, which is great.
Yeah, and in fact, tonight we're going to be quoting from both the Lombardo translation of Ovid's Metamorphoses and the Ambrose translation.
So we'll see this in action.
Exactly. Yep. So let's say, Jeff, that one of our audience wants to get a great discount at Hackett. What do they need to do?
Well, they got to go to hackettpublishing.com. And they got to find their books and drop them into the little digital satchel there. And then if they type in the coupon code, which is
AN2022.
That's right. And you'll get 2 great things, 20% off your entire order and free shipping.
You could possibly get 3 great things.
What's that?
You get the anniversary tote bag while supplies last.
Forgot about the tote.
Exactly. So check it out.
This episode of Ad Nauseam also brought to you by the Moss Method. Now, Dave, if I wanted to learn some Greek, but I didn't want to go through the paperwork and pay tuition at the local think shop.
Right.
How would I go about doing this?
The frontisterion.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yes.
Well, you could go to mossmethod.com, mossmethod.com. You could watch my numerous free videos. I also have hundreds on my Latin per Diem YouTube channel. All manner of Greek scholars I've covered. New Testament, the Septuagint, Genesis, 3 syllables note. Also the Greek Church Fathers. Plus you've got Homer and Sophocles. So much of my free stuff to start to learn some Greek. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to go from
neophyte to erudite.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
You could sign up for the course. Now I've got some good news and bad news.
Let's start with the bad news.
You want the bad news?
Yes.
Okay, the bad news is that we have not raised our prices in 4 years, despite all of the inflation. So we're going to have a slight price raise here.
Okay.
We're going to go not just from neophyte to erudite, but from $2.99 to $3.25.
Okay. Such are the times we live in.
Exactly.
Right?
It's about a $26 increase.
Okay.
A couple Big Macs.
Okay.
That's the bad news. Maybe.
Okay. But what's the good news then?
Well, the good news is we're not raising price until June 1.
So you got to jump on it now, though.
Yes, if you want to take advantage of this, this is the last time we're going to offer Moss at $2.99. You want to jump on it right now. Mm-hmm. And so you might ask me, what does the course offer?
What does the course offer, Dave?
The course offers 40 videos. This is high-level instruction. Everything I have learned in studying and teaching Greek for 30 years now, since 1992. Well, that dates me. Long time.
Exact date.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
I have been learning a lot of Greek, studying a lot of Greek, teaching it. So I'm giving you everything I've learned in these 40 video lessons for the first module, 40 assignments, 6 quizzes, 2 exams, and lots of personal contact with me. There's really, there's no reason not to learn Greek. And, I don't want to be immodest, but I think it's fair to say that this is the most comprehensive program available for self-paced learning of Attic and Koine Greek.
Sounds great. And in the office hours, right?
Oh, yeah, the office hours.
They can meet with you directly.
That's right.
Yep.
Typically on Friday mornings, we get together. We were reading some New Testament this past week. We read a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So you can join, be a part.
So how would they go about doing this?
They got to go to mossmethod.com and check it out.
Check it out.
All right, Jeff, so as we get back into it, we have now set the stage.
Yes.
We have been introduced to the character of Numa and the Roman king. We've been introduced to the character of Pythagoras, the pre-Socratic philosopher, whose careers did not overlap chronologically. Nevertheless, Ovid has this tradition of putting them close together, and he exploits this in Book 15 of his Metamorphoses.
Okay. All right, so should we jump right to the text then?
Yeah, let's do that.
So what we got going on here? Why don't you read some Latin for us?
I would love to do that. So this is from the beginning of Book 15. And this, of course, is in the dactylic hexameter, and it would sound something like this. Quaeritur interea qui tantae pondera mollis, sustineat tanto quaqueat succedera regi, destinat imperio clardrum praenuntia verdi, fama numam non illa satis cognosa Sabinae, gentis habet ritus animo maiordre capaci, concipit et quae sit rerum natura requirit.
Very nice.
Oh, I got 2 more lines.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Finish it up.
Huius amor curdrae patria curdrebusque relictis, fecit ut Herculei penetrar ad hospitis urbem.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Let me offer the Ambrose translation.
Let's hear
of those
that.
lines. In the meantime, there was a search for one to bear the weight of so great a burden, and with the ability to succeed so great a king. So talking about Romulus there.
Yeah,
right?
Romulus is gone,
Yep.
lead ball vanishing.
For supreme power, she who heralds truth, Fama, marks the brilliant Numa. For that man merely to know the rights of the Sabine people is not enough. With his capacious mind, he conceives of greater works and searches into the nature of things. What, are we back to Lucretius now?
Exactly. Did you catch that
I
in
did.
the Latin? Rerum natura?
Yes.
That's a reference. That Ovid, he is elusive. It's a deep cut.
Yeah, it is a deep cut. He's winking, he's nodding.
That's right.
He's nudging that elbow.
Bipping and bopping. You want to throw
All
some
over
of that
the
in there? It's synchronicity is what it is.
Exactly. For love of this pursuit, he left his native Cures behind and went all the way to the city that had been host to Hercules.
Yes, and that is the city of Crotona, way down in the instep of the arch of the boot of Italy.
Right.
Words to that effect.
Right. And so the tradition says that Pythagoras fled Samos for this particular area, right? And now we associate this place with Numa as well.
Yep, Heraclea and Croton. They're on the Gulf of Tarentum, if I'm not mistaken. Taros was a Spartan colony. I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
That's what I remember.
All right.
All right, so there we have Numa, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to be introduced to Pythagoras and get his long sermon about vegetarianism here in Book 15.
Right, which you have titled Enter Bland Man.
Enter Bland Man. That's Pythagoras. Why would I call it Bland Man? Well, I'm tipping my plate, you might say at this point, because I'm not a vegetarian.
No, nor am I.
And I find the vegetarian diet, we're going to probably get lots of hate mail.
Yeah.
People are going to send us vegetables in the mail. I find it a little bland.
Well, but he says you just need to kind of roast up the pipe. There's plenty of spices out there.
He does,
Yeah,
and we're going to get into that.
Okay, all right.
So, and I know and love vegetarians, but yeah, I just thought it would be funny to say. Enter Bland Man. So we got a little bit more Latin. We got some Greek.
Yes, right.
Did I say Greek? No. English.
English, yes. Why don't you take some Latin for us here?
I'd love to do that. So
right.
this is beginning at line 60 in the text. Vir fuit hic ortu samaius sed fugaratuna, et samonet dominos odio quater rana de sexual, spon terrat isquelicet caelir regioner remotos, mente deos ariet et quae naturra negabat, visibus humani sacolisea pectoris hausit, cum quana met vigili perspexeret omnia curdra, in medium descenda debatque tusque silentum, dictaque mirdrantum magni primordia mundi, et rerum causas et quid natura docebat, quid deus unde nives quae fulminus esset origo.
So again, more Lucretius.
Yes,
right?
Lots of Lucretian allusions and references stuffed in there.
Right, and he's going to talk about where do all these things in nature come from. He's going to explain the origins, and not necessarily in terms of the gods.
That's right.
So we're right. I think we're right back to Lucretius again.
Yes, and all of the titles that we came up with for those particular episodes. Shebangs and enchiladas.
That was great.
Forth.
Yeah. Well, let me translate. Let me give a translation of those lines.
Yeah. So who is this that you're reading from?
This is from the Lombardo.
Stan.
Stan, exactly. Whose translations of Homer I like so much. So he translates: There was a man there, Samian by birth, who had fled Samos and its tyrannical rulers, and lived in voluntary exile. Though his gods were far away, he visited their region of the sky in his mind, and things that nature denied to human vision he took in with his inner eye. When he had looked carefully into everything with his awakened heart, he began to teach the silent crowds, who listened in wonder as he described the origin of the universe, the causes of things.
Causes of things.
Yes, what the natural world is and what gods are, where snow comes from, and lightning.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's very
Lombardo's an excellent translator.
He's got a way of just kind of boiling it right down to the essence. Yep.
Don't you want to know where snow comes from?
I haven't really thought about it.
I'd like to know where snow goes, frankly. It was snowing here this morning. It
was.
And yesterday.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
So very Lucretian here. But I also am very fascinated by this idea that, well, how did Pythagoras figure this out? He kind of went on this almost astral projection journey.
He did.
Into the minds of the gods. And
right.
Kind of saw everything. And this is very Eastern.
Isn't that what Epicurus did, though, too?
Exactly.
The beginning of Lucretius. He's the one alone who was bold enough to break through the bars and doors of religion and superstition and penetrate into the interstices of the cosmos.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of Eastern connection, it also reminds me one way in which Buddha's enlightenment under the tree is understood is that he has this vision of kind of how everything fits together. Like his nirvana is his kind of, he sees kind of the whole wheel of time in one fell swoop. He understands it. And so it's almost here like Pythagoras has not so much maybe like broken through the wall of superstition, but again, the gods have almost kind of beckoned him up and said, yeah, we'll give you a look.
You're going to get a glimpse.
Yeah.
All right, so there we have Pythagoras introduced, and now we're going to go through some of the arguments that he gives as to why we should stop eating meat.
Okay, now you got to help me out a little bit here before we jump into this. Okay, so he's obviously set up Numa, right? And he's kind of talking about he was very wise and a deeper thinker than others and such. And then we jump right to Pythagoras says, okay, I'm starting to get the connection. Pythagoras is the mentor of Numa.
Right.
But then he launches into vegetarianism. I mean, what does this have to do with anything?
This is one of the things for which Pythagoras is known.
Okay, but what does this have to do with Numa? Was Numa a veggie?
No.
Okay. I don't understand why Ovid kind of
But you're
hits
getting
this.
a little touchy here, Winkle.
Well, he hits this so hard.
Yeah,
and
I think maybe it's for a joke, because when we get to the end of this part, we will see what Numa actually does with this long sermon.
All right.
From Pythagoras, and it's kind of anticlimactic.
Okay.
But first, we got to get through the arguments.
We do. Okay. So what's he arguing here?
Well, the first argument I have called "the garden is enough."
Right. You don't need the meat.
You don't need the meats.
Right.
So I'm reading from Ambrose. Desist, O mortals, from desecrating with sacrilegious food your bodies. There is grain, there is fruit bending down the branches with its weight, and grapes swollen upon the vines. Sweet herbs there are, and those that flame can soften and make tender, and flowing milk is not denied to you, nor honey, scented with flowering thyme. Extravagant earth lavishes wealth and gentle nourishment, and offers feastings without slaughter and blood.
All right.
So
Okay.
just be satisfied with the plant world.
The garden is enough.
That's right. But he's not a vegan, because you notice we have in here both honey and milk.
Right. So he's cool with kind of using the products of these
That's
animals.
correct.
Yeah.
And I suppose maybe eggs. He doesn't mention eggs.
But I'm guessing he'd be cool with eggs. Well, I don't know.
I would
don't
think
know.
so.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he'd be cool with them if he boiled them and put them in the refrigerator or something.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
The second one is, the second argument is, only wild creatures eat meat.
Yeah.
You want to read a little bit of that from the Lombardo?
give me-
I was reading the Ambrose.
Wild animals satisfy their hunger with flesh. Not all of them, since horses and cattle and sheep live on grasses, but wild, savage beasts. Armenian tigers and raging lions, wolves and bears enjoy food dripping with blood. Oh, how wrong for flesh to become other flesh, for a greedy body to fatten on a swallowed body, for one creature to live on another's death. Surrounded with riches that the best of mothers, earth herself yields, nothing makes you happy but your cruel teeth, tearing at pitiful wounds, and like the Cyclops, you cannot satisfy your voracious appetite without destroying another.
Right.
He's getting angrier and angrier.
He is. Yes, this is a Jeremiad, or a Jeremiad.
Jeremiah. Yes, there
It's
you go.
a Jeremiad.
Yes.
He's just throwing down. So the first argument, the garden's enough. Second one, only wild creatures eat meat. What kind of an animal do you want to be like?
You could be Armenian
An
tiger.
Armenian tiger, tearing and shredding, and or like the T-Rex, you know?
And then the exclamation point at the end of this is like a Cyclops.
Yes, the third argument, don't be a Cyclops.
Yeah.
Who wants to be or noli Kyklopsessa? Who wants to be a Cyclops, right?
Yeah.
Guts, sunken guts. And of course, Ovid tells the story of the Cyclops and his cave, previously in the book, and that's his main point. Is he sunk my guts in his guts, is what he says, and it's played for comedy once again.
Right.
But here it seems to be just dead earnest, really.
And then he goes on to compare that to be a vegetarian is as if to live in the golden age.
That's right.
Right.
The golden age was vegerific.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, there was no need for hunting or killing in the golden age. It was just, nature kind of offered its bounty and the grapes dropped into your hands.
That's right. But that earlier time, this is Ambrose, we call the golden age, with fruit from the trees and herbs from the ground, was happy, nor did it pollute mouths with blood. In those days, birds moved their wings in safety through the air, and in the open fields the hare roamed without fear, nor did its own credulity suspend the fish upon the hook. Isn't that nice?
That is nice.
That poor fish, he's just so gullible, right? I'll take that bait. I don't see that shiny hook.
Yeah.
No creature lay in wait to attack or feared any guile, and all were filled with peace. There you have it.
There you have it. Yep. I mean, that's straight out of Hesiod. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But you find that the world over, most cultures that have an origin story or creation story that survives posits that the world began as again, pure nature,
right,
and perfection was in a garden,
right.
And Pythagoras says there's no reason why we can't mimic that.
Exactly.
Right. Yep.
But then a useless inventor arose. Do you have that portion there in the Lombardo?
Lombardo says then some useless person comes along.
Okay.
Right. Then some useless person started to envy lions for their victims and stuffed his greedy belly with flesh. Yeah, I wish they had named this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny, though, because there are a lot of firsts in the Metamorphoses, a lot of inventors, right? Daedalus is the archetypical inventor. Mm-hmm. There's his nephew, Perdix, who invents the saw from a fish.
Yeah.
And there's Triptolemus, who invents agriculture. And you've got all these amazing inventors. But this one, because he's done something heinous, according to Pythagoras, he's anonymous.
Yeah. He's a exactly. That's really interesting. But
Like the guy that invented the Cabbage Patch dolls. We don't want to know his name.
No, exactly. History should forget his name.
Exactly.
These were terrifying. Yeah. horrifying.
They looked like potatoes.
They did look like potatoes, but they also look like they would come alive at night and stab you.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. So, but this is kind of an Adam figure, right? This is the guy who kind of ruined it all. Some useless person started to envy lions for their victims and stuffed his greedy belly with flesh, blazing a trail for sin. How does Ambrose translate that?
Let's see.
Blazing a trail for sin.
Laid the path to crime.
Laid the path to crime. Okay.
Within his greedy belly, a meal of flesh, and laid the path to crime.
Yeah. It is possible that weapons were first warm and bloodstained from killing beasts. That should have been enough. I admit that creatures that try to kill us may themselves be killed without incurring guilt. Okay, so he makes an exception here. So if a bear's coming after you, bear's coming after you.
Bear down!
Do what you got to do, right? But while they may be killed, don't eat them.
Yeah.
All right.
It's interesting because my daughter asked me recently, she said, do you think it's okay to kill animals if you don't eat them? And children are deep philosophers. Mm-hmm. They really are. Your children, I'm sure, are the same way. They think deeply about stuff. Not all the time, but sometimes. So we had an interesting conversation. I said, well, sometimes, I mean, if I have a hard time not being silly, right? If a giraffe comes to the door and wants to trample you, I may have to take it out.
Right.
But I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah. No.
So sometimes maybe it's okay to kill an animal. She said, well, my teacher was talking to me about X or Y. And I said, well, I agree with the teacher on the whole. The principle is don't be wasteful.
Yeah.
But there may be some time when all those, the Jaws movies and the Jurassic Park movies.
Yes.
Did they eat all those creatures after they dispatched them?
No, they did not.
I don't think so.
No, there was no barbecue
No.
of the velociraptor. But now, you grew up as kind of a backwoodsman, didn't you? Sport hunting?
A little bit.
A little bit?
I had the coonskin cap as a kid.
Yeah, but did you go out like in November and shoot?
I did that stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you skin and eat the deer, or?
I never have actually shot a deer.
Okay.
I have skinned and eaten other animals, or
Okay.
almost eaten other animals. We shouldn't go too deep into that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. My son also not too long ago was kind of positing that, it might be wrong, it might be cruel to eat animals, but he was doing this as he was picking pepperoni off a piece of pizza, putting it in his mouth. Yeah, not realizing the deep irony of that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah,
well,
it was.
Kids pick up a lot of things,
Yep, it's true.
Right.
All right.
So the next argument is...
Yes, he's got something against pigs.
Well, the pig, got eaten first. And Ambrose says, from that beginning, this wickedness spread. And the sow is thought to have deserved to die as the first victim because she uprooted the seeds with her spreading snout and cut short the hope of the year.
So it ruined the harvest.
Ruined the garden.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, those pigs.
Yeah. I was reading, earlier today, A.S. Klein's translation of this. And his translation...
It's the poetry and translation site,
Yes. Right? His translation suggests here that it's... not just punishing the pig, but kind of this is a reason why you often see pigs in sacrifices, because this kind of gives you the moral right to kill the pig.
They're a nuisance.
They're a nuisance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not a lot of pigs in our contemporary setting, although I was raised on a farm that raised hogs.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Aren't they said to be fairly smart?
They are very smart and unbelievably strong.
Really?
I don't mean smart like Pythagorean theorem smart, but I mean they take good care of their living quarters, their pens and so forth. They separate their waste from their consumption. But they're omnivores. They will eat each other.
Oh, really?
And they will eat you. You asked before if I liked horror films in the last episode.
Yes.
No.
You said no.
And if you go into, a confinement hog pen and you sit down and you don't move,
they will eat you.
You'll be gone by the next day.
There's a horror movie right there.
That's right. I don't know what it would be called. But, so I can sympathize a little bit with Pythagoras' point. Maybe the pig had it coming. Mm-hmm. But the goat also, right? The goat also maybe had it coming.
Right. And this also strikes me that the pig and the goat also find their way into like satanic symbolism.
I suppose.
And I wonder kind of if the kind of those animals being, I don't know, unclean or undesirable.
Yeah.
That symbolism transfers there.
Well, the goat is known for its fertility, because they never reach a stage of life where they're infertile.
Okay. All right.
They can continue having kids until they die.
Interesting.
Can you read the part about the goat?
Yes. So the goat. This is Lombardo again. The goat was led to slaughter at the avenging altar because it browsed Bacchus's vines. So it's like snacking on grapes? Is that what's going on
Yeah,
here?
that doesn't seem like the goat really deserved it. But
He was just window shopping,
Right.
browsing, right?
their own faults brought harm to both, says
Right.
Ambrose. Have you ever eaten goat?
I have. I like goat a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes.
Yeah, I have extended family members who are from the Caribbean, and goat's a delicacy in many places.
Right. I remember at one classics jamboree in Madison, Wisconsin, went to a Nepalese restaurant and had a goat dish, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
That's right, though. But I as I was eating, I was saying, oh, this thing deserved it. Right?
Browse Bacchus's vines.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
But he goes on and says, though these two, that is the pig and the goat, paid for their guilt. Mm-hmm. But then he says, but what about the poor sheep? What do they do?
The other animals are innocent.
Right.
Is Ovid being funny here or what?
It's hard not to laugh at this, but that could be me.
He says, why have you deserved ill, you sheep and peaceful flock? A little apostrophe. He's going to talk to the sheep. Created to nurture humanity, you bring that nectar. You that bring nectar with udders full, who furnish us for soft raiment, your wool, and help us more with your life than with your death. Why have the oxen deserved ill, animals without offense or deceit, not harmful, simple, born to endure work? So you see the cow, right, is a really morally high quality individual according to Pythagoras.
Yes.
So how could you eat him?
Right. He goes on to talk about how cows or oxen used in these elaborate sacrifices where they're decorated with ribbons, and then I thought this was a nice touch from Pythagoras, says they sprinkle on their brow the very grains that they helped to cultivate. What the ultimate insult.
It's cruel.
Right. And then they bring the axe down on the poor animal's head.
Right.
Yeah. Have you seen
so much pathos?
So much pathos. This reminds me of one of the final scenes in Apocalypse Now. Have you seen Apocalypse Now? Oh, really? Okay.
Again, Winkle, the answer is always.
Is it always no?
No. If there's some element of pop culture, I probably don't know it.
There is a violent tribal sacrifice of an oxen at the end of that, which is brutal.
Huh.
Yes, and it's not. They could not put the claim that no animals were hurt in the filming of that because this was the real deal.
Yeah. What was the episode that we released where you had an Apocalypse Now spoof title?
That was Necropolis Now.
Necropolis Now.
Yeah.
Very early, very successful.
Yes, yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah.
So the cow didn't have it coming. What else?
Who else kind of is Pythagoras says should be off the hook here? Well, he goes on and on about these animals being used in sacrifices, sheep and oxen, and how unjust it is. But he says, let's see here. So this is where monumental mortal hunger for forbidden food you dare feed, O humans. Do not, I beg you. Turn your minds instead to my admonitions. And when you put the flesh of slaughtered cattle into your mouths, know you are devouring your fellows. So he makes a kind of an equivalence between humans and animals, right? We are all soul bearers.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then we have all of these arguments, but then there are just a couple more before he gets near the really high-strung rhetorical conclusion. So humans implicate the gods in their bloodthirsty slaughter. So this is part of the origin story of religion. Why was ritual sacrifice invented? Because humans want to eat meat. So let's pretend that there's a religious goal, and we'll give the gods a little bit, but then we'll just eat a lot of meat.
Right.
Another one is don't eat meat because of soul migration. Right?
Yeah.
Metempsychosis. This is really what the whole thing is driving at. Because, as we'll see in a minute, you might end up eating a family member.
That's right. Exactly.
You might end up eating a family member. But it takes several pages for Pythagoras to get this point out. Because remember, one of Ovid's main purposes is to demonstrate his mythological encyclopedic knowledge.
He's showing off.
Exactly. So, like Callimachus, right? You have to show off the geography and the myth that you know. And here's yet another opportunity to do that.
All right. Okay.
And then we come right down to the end of it, and we're going to get to the big peroration or the sermon.
Okay.
And can I read a little bit of the Latin there? Would that be all right?
I would hope you would. Yes.
All right. So this is line 456. And I won't read the whole thing, but just a little bit. So, nos quoque pars mundi quoniam non corpora solum, verretiam volucre sana mai sumus inque farinas, possumus ira domos peccadum quin pectora condi, corpora quae possint animas habavissa perdentum, aut fratraut aliquo junctordrum foedera nobis, aut hominum certe tu tes et honestus in amos. Neotheeste is cumulemus viscera mensis.
Nicely done. Lots of elisions in there.
Yes, and then we got the Thyestes. I should say mensis at the end there.
Yes. And this is from Lombardo's translation. It says, "We too are a part of the world. And since we are not only bodies but winged souls can reside in wild animals and lodge in the hearts of cattle, let us treat with respect bodies that could have held the souls of our parents or brothers, or of those joined to us by some bond, or of humans at least, and not glut ourselves on Thyestean banquets."
Yeah. Right. Interesting that in the Ambrose translation, he says, those joined to us by marriage bond. So you can't even eat the in-laws.
Seems a little unfair, right?
So, I mean, he mentions, right, ancestors' souls, they could be your brothers, they could be your parents, even someone who's just kind of remotely connected to you.
Yeah.
You don't want to end up eating the guy that, sold you a burger yesterday.
Right. And then by making this connection to Thyestes, he underlines the fact that to eat animals in some ways is a kind of cannibalism.
It is absolutely cannibalism, according to Pythagoras. So everyone knows the story of Atreus and Thyestes, right? Mm-hmm. Atreus, the father of Menelaus and Agamemnon. What does Thyestes do? He sleeps with Atreus's wife.
Yes.
Yes, whose name I can't remember right now.
Blanking out too.
But in order to get revenge for this adultery, Atreus takes the children of Thyestes and kills them and boils them and serves them to Thyestes at table. Come on over for a meal. Of course, Thyestes is shocked when Atreus says, "So you like that food? Oh, it's delicious. That's your children."
Right, yeah. So he just waits for the big, awful reveal.
And that's right.
Yeah.
That's the Thyestean feast.
So that's the reference here, right?
So what do you think, Winkle?
What do I think?
I mean, are you off meat now?
No, I still like meat.
Okay.
I still like my fried chicken.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not off it, but I'm not going to go out and eat it right now because I'm put off it in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But we got to know, how did Numa respond to this?
Right. So this is going to tie it all together, right?
That's right.
So
we're going to see the shock.
So how did Numa react to this? So what do we got here?
Right. Well, I want to read just 2 lines of the Latin.
Okay.
So Pythagoras has finished his big sermon, and then just 2 lines in which Ovid tells us what Numa's response to all of this electrifying instruction was.
Okay.
Sacrificos docovit ritus gentem queferoci, ad suetam bello pacis traduxit ad artes. And that would be, 83 and 84, 483 and 484.
Okay.
And you have the Lombardo translation there?
So let me just start with the translation a little bit before what you read.
Excellent.
So Lombardo translates, "They say that Numa returned to his own land with these and other teachings in his heart. And when he was asked, he assumed the reins of the Latin state. Happy with the Nymphageria as his wife, blessed by the muses of Italy, he made mild a rough people and introduced them to sacred rituals and the arts of peace."
Right.
Okay.
So how does he respond to all of this teaching about vegetarianism? Well, in the 4th or 5th line after the sermon is over, Sacrificos docovit ritus. He taught them the rites of sacrifice.
So that's what he got from this.
Right. Apparently,
he didn't learn a thing.
Nothing. He learned nothing. He is the institutor of the whole Roman sacrificial system, which depends upon the slaughter of animals.
Right. So what's Ovid up to? Is it a big joke?
Well, I wonder.
Is it a critique?
I can't tell. It can't be an actual critique of Roman religion any more than the epilogue to the Metamorphoses is an actual critique of Augustus. But in the epilogue on Augustus, he compares Augustus to some fairly unsavory characters from classical myth.
Yeah.
And now, Numa listens to Pythagoras rail for hundreds of lines about, don't eat meat, and religion is just a scheme for killing animals. And Numa goes back to Rome and, let's set up the sacrificial system and kill some animals. I don't really understand.
I kind of like it as a joke because it's got such an absurdly long setup.
You're right.
Right. So hundreds of lines.
Yes.
Making exactly the opposite point. And what is Numa's takeaway? Let's eat some meat.
That's right. And I think part of it is, I don't know, but it could be that the joke partly works because the Greeks and the Romans are so different, right? There's the constant envy that the Romans have of Greek cultural success.
True.
You can see it in the Aeneid, right? In Book 6 about Debellare superbis, etc. Parcere subiectis et debellare superbos. The Romans are supposed to impose order and beat down the proud. The Greeks are going to be better painters and sculptors and scientists and everything.
Right.
And now Ovid's saying, yeah, Pythagoras, all your long-winded and high-flung philosophy about don't do this and this is immoral and so forth. And the Romans are just very, very practical.
Right.
We're going to do that.
So you think it could be a kind of a chin flip in Pythagoras' direction?
I think so.
Yeah.
And maybe toward Greek philosophy in general.
Interesting.
I could be, going too far with that argument, but something's got to explain the fact that all of this about Pythagoras just had no impact on Numa.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. It's funny.
Yeah, it is.
I think it is funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another way to explain it is just, Ovid wanted to talk about Pythagoras. He did. Then he talked about Numa and made no effort to connect the two episodes. But I don't find that persuasive because he's the consummate artist.
Right.
He could do anything he wanted.
Right, exactly. Right. And I think also that, I certainly had this sense when I first started studying, classical literature, is that my sense is, you got to approach this stuff with the utmost seriousness.
Right.
Right. Even the fact that it's in Latin suggests it's got kind of a loftiness. And
It does.
So to look for a joke is almost to insult it. But now, I don't think that way at all.
You see jokes everywhere.
You see jokes everywhere. And I think it's part of the artistry. Right, so especially having talked to Robert Mack the other episode there, I think he would appreciate kind of the long setup and then just the balloon is just popped.
It's very anticlimactic.
In 2 lines.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
And so he taught them the rites of sacrifice.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I did a little bit of digging around.
Okay.
And I was going to see, how does Pythagoras' arguments for vegetarianism stand up to some modern arguments?
Yeah.
So for me, modern is 1980. I looked up a very famous philosopher.
Well, Peter Singer is
Peter Singer.
He's kind of the firebrand.
He's well known
of veganism, right?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Right. So his article, Utilitarianism and Vegetarianism, Philosophy and Public Affairs, 1980, Volume 9, Number 4. He says, quote, I am a utilitarian, right? That is the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest number of people.
Yes.
Or in this case, maybe creatures. To continue the quote, I am also a vegetarian. I am a vegetarian because I am a utilitarian. I believe that applying the principle of utility to our present situation, especially the methods now used to rear animals for food and the variety of food available to us, leads to the conclusion that we ought to be vegetarian. So 2 comments about this.
Yeah.
One is, I don't think it's bad reasoning necessarily, though I don't agree with the conclusion. It's much less interesting than Ovid.
Oh, totally less interesting.
Right?
I don't know much about Peter Singer, but I have a good sense that he does not believe in the existence of souls.
Probably
right?
not.
Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
And it's just a comment on what's the correct way to consume philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, we've lost something if it's not dressed up in brilliant Latin hexameters.
If you're gonna give someone hard medicine, you got to put the honey in the lip of the cup, right?
That's right. That's Lucretius.
So give me Ovid any day.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the second point is that he quickly slides from I am a vegetarian to the conclusion that we ought to be vegetarian.
That is kind of it is a very quick move he makes there.
Well, but I guess if you're a utilitarian, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Maybe that's the wrong metaphor. But Numa would have none of this.
No.
Right? A very interesting argument, Singer. And now I need to institute the Roman system of sacrifice.
Yeah. All right. I'm with Numa.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, we got to get out of here, man.
Oh, my goodness. This has turned into a long...
We're over time. And once again, I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface.
We did not.
I mean, there's a lot of great stuff here. Listener, go and read book 15.
That's right.
Of the Metamorphoses. There's so much interesting
We didn't
stuff.
even cut down near the bone.
We completely ignored the part about the peoples, the far-flung peoples, when they urinate, it turns to stone.
Really?
Right? Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on the fringes, right? So you're going to want to read this.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So as we're going to wrap up, right?
Yep.
And here's the $1 billion idea, which is actually Mrs. Noe's idea.
Yes. What is it?
Well, she correctly noted that there are 2 crazes going on right now in the food world.
Okay.
The one craze is the macaroni and cheese craze. Have you seen this?
That's a craze now?
It is a craze. Okay. Everywhere and every place and every restaurant is pushing macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
It's a COVID holdover, the ultimate comfort food.
Yes.
Right? Sit down and eat a big bowl of pasta with cheese.
Yeah.
It's not vegan, it's vegetarian.
Yeah.
And the other really big food trend is avocados.
Oh, yes. Now I am aware of that.
Avocados are going crazy.
And they're putting them on toast, right?
That's right.
That, yeah.
So why don't we combine them, guacaroni and cheese?
That would actually taste really good.
It would. Can you imagine a mac and cheese that is, it has avocado, guacamole, and instead of the cheese, or maybe, reduce the cheese a little bit and put the guacamole in?
Yeah.
Guacaroni and cheese.
That is a billion.
It's $1 billion idea right there.
You should not have shared that because
someone out there is going to
jump on that
it
and make a million.
Yeah, and then we're going to have them as a sponsor, and during the commercial break, we'll be plugging Guacaroni and Cheese.
I can't wait for that day.
All right.
We got to get out of here.
Oh, my.
Big thanks to Mishka, as always. Big thanks to Ken and Scott for the great music. We've been getting a steady flow of shout outs.
Yes, we're thankful for that.
Candidates.
Yeah, please send them along. So
write to Dave at dave@adnauseam.com. Don't forget the V.
Or Jeff at the same, jeff@adnauseam.com with the V. Next week, are we going back to Ovid maybe for one more round, or what do you think?
Are we going to do one more vignette or two more?
One more vignette.
Yeah, exactly.
I think is the proper pronunciation.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we could do two. You could choose one. I could choose one.
Okay,
but we'll talk it out. We'll talk it out.
No big whoop.
But a little more Ovid, and then looking forward to our epic treatment of the Aeneid.
Yeah, we're going to turn to the Aeneid.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if that's going to take 40 or 45 episodes.
But
I'm not really
however
sure.
long it takes, I think Kara will enjoy it.
That's right.
Yeah. And Dave, you got our gustatory parting shot today.
I do. It's from someone named Tyler Cord.
Yeah.
And his the title of his work is A Super Upsetting Cookbook About Sandwiches.
I love that.
That's really nice. And here's what he says. It's important to achieve balance in sandwiches because who really knows how to achieve it in life? Life is messy, difficult, occasionally great, but mostly upsetting and out of your control. But you can always make a good sandwich, and a good sandwich will make you happy.
It's very stoic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
You like making sandwiches?
I love making sandwiches.
I love it, too.
With avocado.
Yes, it's an architectural accomplishment. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.